Welcome everyone to the Peoria Forward Program's Business Builder Series. This series provides interested members of the community with essential skills training for building a dynamic and sustainable venture. Now, when I say venture, that could be a business, a nonprofit organization, or even a solo project. The learning environment for the series is supposed to be interactive and approachable for anyone interested in the topic. This includes entrepreneurs at every stage and any industry, or even curious members of the community. Last fall, I covered topics like how to create a business model canvas, critical legal considerations when starting a business, as well as basic business accounting. This season, we are starting off with pivoting a business model and boosting online presence. Today, we are taking a special look at social media.
All right, so the Peoria Forward program is made up of Kristen and myself. I am the senior program coordinator, so my role is really to create programs like this and to do one-on-one assistance with entrepreneurs looking for resources or for advice on putting together a strategy. And Kristen, our senior program manager, she is a business consulting expert and works with a lot of our high growth potential ventures and builds our key partnerships. And tonight we are joined with Vincent, and he is our social media guru as part of the ASU Knowledge Enterprise. And he's got a whole slide with a bunch of exciting stuff on it, so I'm not going to spoil anything exciting here. I'll save that for him. But by now, you've probably heard me use some terms like Peoria Forward and entrepreneur several times. So I wanted to dig into what these terms mean before going any further. The Peoria Forward program is part of the J. Orrin Edson Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute at Arizona State University. Our program is a high impact partnership between the city of Peoria and ASU, and our goal is to grow and scale what we call an entrepreneurial ecosystem in the West Valley in order to accelerate economic development in the region. Now, the entrepreneurial ecosystem is essentially the network of connections or relationships between entrepreneurs, funders, finance, human capital, resource providers, educational institutions, even things like local culture, everything that essentially goes into supporting the development and growth of a venture. So here at Peoria Forward, our goal is to build and strengthen relationships throughout this community. Strong and meaningful connections make the community self-sustaining. It also empowers entrepreneurs and anybody from the community really to be able to find the solutions that they need. And entrepreneur at ASU is something that we want to make sure that we define, because for us it is a very diverse term that encompasses all kinds of doers, dreamers, and makers out there, including artists and nonprofit founders. So if you're bringing an idea into fruition, you're an entrepreneur. So that's something that we always want to make sure to clarify. So if you have ideas, you are in the right spot, even if you aren't necessarily here to make a profit or in business already. It's all about those makers, doers, and dreamers. So why is entrepreneurship important? Well, it is the spice of our communities. It's what makes them so vibrant. And they are also the largest creator of new jobs in the United States. So it's an extremely important part of our community and something that we want to make sure to celebrate. And the main tools of our Peoria Forward program include events like this one, incubation support for entrepreneurs, as well as being partners with community resource providers to help jumpstart some new sustainable resources for the community to continue to access. Okay, our objectives for tonight, by the end of this workshop, attendees will be able to compare social media platforms and determine a best fit for your own venture. So maybe it's TikTok, maybe it's not. Hopefully after tonight, you'll have a better idea of whether or not that is for you. Create and post social media marketing campaigns and monitor social media marketing campaign results. We are going to do that by first going over an overview of the social media landscape, going over creating SMART goals for your social media strategy, reviewing the sales funnel and how social media fits into the idea of using social media to drive sales, some tools to help support you in this. And then finally, we have luckily a guest invited by Vincent, who is an entrepreneur with an excellent strategy for social media and track history. And this will be an opportunity for us to speak with somebody who has had a great experience and great strategy and ask our questions away. Okay, so with that, I will go ahead and hand it over to Vincent, and he will launch into our social media landscape.
Take myself off mute. Thanks, Eric. I'm gonna go and share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see and hear me. Welcome again. My name is Vincent Orlick. I'm the full-time social media manager for ASU's Knowledge Enterprise, which is, I put parentheses research because that's kind of more the fancy term for research here at ASU is the Knowledge Enterprise. But really we encompass everything that falls under the research world. All the brands, all the ASU affiliated programs and institutes, of which the Edson Entrepreneurship and Innovation Institute is.
Okay, we will hold on for a moment while Vincent
I'm here.
Oh, okay, there we go.
So this is me. I don't know how far I made it, but I won't go through all that again. Just to save on time. The other things I'm part of is Social Media Hub here in Phoenix. President there, and then I volunteer with the SPHX ecosystem here in the Valley. Phoenix Startup Week, which is upcoming in April as part of even a bigger entrepreneurship initiative statewide. And then I'm lucky enough to do these segments on Fox 10 in the mornings every once in a while when something major happens in social media or there's a trend or something that they wanna discuss. So that's me. That's where I'm coming from, and that's my family right there. That's my 2 daughters and my wife. So Eric went down sort of the rundown. We'll look up here. What I would say is that if you have questions, put them in the chat, and depending on Eric's gonna moderate that, and we'll either address them all at the end, or if there's some that maybe are on topic like right at that moment, I'm happy to address them directly right then too. So does that work for you, Eric? Good. Okay. Social media landscape. I don't want to scare anybody, but essentially, this is where we're at, and this is not even totally up to date. This is a graphic called the Conversationalism that is created, updated every few years. It's not the most up to date right now. This is the last version that's available that I can find. It's missing a few still, and it's probably got some in there that have gone away also. You may or may not have seen this before. It just gives you an idea of the amount of platforms that are out there available technically for social media. If you want to group them in that, it's much more than just Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn, which are kind of the big 4 as most people. And then you start to work Pinterest and Snapchat in there, TikTok for sure, some others. But this is just so you have an idea of this clutter, this noise that's out there. So how do you cut through this as a tiny, small one-person business or a couple employees or someone just starting out? How do you get through all this? Which we'll talk about. Another this just recently came out. This is Hootsuite does a report annually, and these are numbers from January of this year that gives you an idea of the world numbers on these platforms. So Facebook, if anybody's telling you that Facebook and Instagram are dying, maybe so to in some areas. Some people have a personal experience with it. They feel like it's not as active for them as it was before, but they're still all growing. Facebook is still growing. There's different audiences on there for sure. There's an older audience on Facebook at this point, rather than the younger. The younger audience is gravitating towards other platforms like TikTok, which is reflected even in the numbers below. So Facebook is still the leader. YouTube, we're including that on social media platforms or social platforms, for this purpose. Some of the others, WhatsApp, Messenger, WeChat, those are ones that we're not really concerned with necessarily as social media platforms, as marketing platforms, as much as some of the others. Snapchat is, the rumors of Snapchat's death are not true. If you've heard that, Snapchat has almost 500 million users at this point worldwide, and has probably, I think the last number I saw was about 220 million users in the US. I mean, it's still very active. It's the younger crowd that's on Snapchat, and TikTok as well, of course. Pinterest is absolutely viable. Twitter is hanging in there. Twitter just doesn't see a whole lot of new user movement, and then they go through and they've purged a lot of accounts for different reasons. People have added accounts, so they've been around that mark, within about 20-30 million for a few years now, that 353 million mark. So all this is to say that, and let me preface this also by saying that in my job, even when whether it's my full-time job or speaking with people, my goal is never to really and truly tell someone they need to be on this platform because it's popular. It's all about who your audience is. So you have to figure that out, though. That has to be part of your planning, in figuring out your audience, and then that's going to really determine how you move forward. You want to go where your audience is, and you also want to consider going where your audience you think will be in the future. So that's another piece of it as well. Yeah, LinkedIn. I just saw in the chat LinkedIn on that particular list, so that that list is going to a certain number. That it's probably just under that. So we're talking about these various platforms. They each have their reasons for existing and for having a presence there. I think I'll just address this one first because it's the newest, and it's here, and you're probably hearing about it or potentially hearing about it. But Clubhouse is an audio only app that is almost a year old. It's audio only on iPhones, and invite only. So it's somewhat exclusive, but it's also technically still in beta, which means that they're still working on it. There was news yesterday that just came out that said they just hired Android developers. So a big kind of complaint of people has been that it's not available on Android. That is not typical. That is not atypical. Apps, when they're developed, often apps are developed for iPhone, for iOS, the iOS platform first, for iPhone first, and then Android. Just because I'm pretty sure the reason is mainly because iOS and iPhone it's just one platform, whereas for Android, for Google, there's some things that have to be done for the app to work on multiple different brands of devices and platforms and things. So it's just a little bit more of a consumption of time and resources, whereas the Apple move to go there first is more viable for most. But it's coming. To that end, there's also Twitter is also developing Spaces, which is basically a clone of what Clubhouse offers. Clubhouse has about 10 million users on it right now, and they've added something like 7 or 8 million users just even in the last few months, like literally the last 3 months, 3 or 4 months. So it's growing very fast. That said, it's at 10 million users. Twitter's at 350 million. Instagram is 112 million US users. It has everything cons to that. Ramon, I just noted you said, well, we talk about how to know where your audience is. We talk about that. I'm going to address that because that's kind of a given. There's a lot of data around that right now. Depending who your audience is, like Pinterest, for example, Pinterest is 77% women. Hope you guys can still hear me. Pinterest is 77% women. So if your audience is female driven, then you absolutely want to consider a Pinterest strategy and including that as part of your overall social media strategy. If you have a heavy element of customer service to your business, and you want to be able to communicate with your customers quickly and directly, then being on Twitter might be a consideration. Being on and having Instagram and having DMs and available and letting your audience know that is important. Facebook, like I mentioned, is an older audience. It's the fastest growing audience on Facebook right now is the boomers, the baby boomer audience demographic. So that's something to consider. The Gen Z is really not on Facebook much at all. They're on TikTok or they're on Instagram to a certain degree, of course. LinkedIn, you'll always hear about LinkedIn being B2B, right? Certainly there's that element, and it's thought of that way for a reason. But in the end, it's still people. It's still decision makers that are potentially on LinkedIn, using LinkedIn, spending time on LinkedIn. It's not the business itself. And I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've all heard this, the running joke is when you get DM'd on LinkedIn for sales, and cold pitch where maybe you accepted a connection from someone that you didn't know, just to give them a chance. And then the first message is, hey, I'm selling this, and you go to my website and you should check this out and all this. It's like just not the way to do it. Even though it may be a B2B type platform, that is still not the way to approach it. Especially on that platform, because there's so many sales savvy people, so many people that know really how to do sales, you would think, right? Picking where your audience lives and will live going forward is important. And I'm happy to answer more detailed questions about that as we go too. One thing I want to bring up too is now that stories, and when I say stories, what I'm talking about is this format of stories. And the platform of stories. So if you think of it as its own thing, because really it is. I ran a poll on one of the channels this week asking about, where do you spend your time, the main feed or in stories? And it was actually 50-50, which doesn't seem really odd, but that's a lot. That's a lot for half the people to say that they spend their time in stories, pretty much mostly, and that's it. Now, it's not a surprise necessarily, but it's a lot to say that they're not really checking out the main feed as much as they are stories. So stories now are on LinkedIn and Twitter as of the fall. They're on Facebook, of course. They're on Instagram, of course. They started on Snapchat. That was the OG stories format. And not that you necessarily want to use this, but it's on Pinterest. they have story pins, which I believe are still in beta. Yelp has stories. If you've been on YouTube, you may have seen the YouTube stories. Spotify, it either has stories or is working on stories. So just about every platform is seeing this value in developing stories for their own platforms, based on the success from, I think, mainly Instagram just blowing it up, right? Good question, Eric. So stories are different from a normal post because it's vertical video. So if you look on the right-hand side of the slide, that is what a story essentially looks like. When you're on Facebook, when you're on LinkedIn, actually, when you're on LinkedIn and Twitter, you see those little circles. And when you're on Instagram, you see the little circles at the top of your feed. Click on those, and that's going to take you to a story. There can be multiple stories that could be multiple frames. You can click through, you can skip out of them, you can rewind. You can do, as the user, you can kind of do what you want in there and skip through if you want to. The key is making it compelling as the user, as the creator, creating compelling content. I mean, that's always the case, right? But for stories, even more so, there's a lot more opportunity to really make it personal. I see a lot of people, they just bring their personality and make it more personal in the story rather than doing that in the main feed, let's say. The reason why I think they're important is because all these companies are excuse me, putting an importance on them. Twitter and LinkedIn, like I said, they just came out with stories, the stories feature in the fall, after LinkedIn said they were going to come out with them in 2018 and then never did until late 2020 for whatever reason, who knows. Twitter calls them fleets. So you may have heard of fleets, but their stories. They're a little bit more limited than what's on, say, Instagram or Facebook, or even LinkedIn. The ones I would say right now that are viable, LinkedIn is not getting a ton of engagement right now. Users are a little slow on using stories to this point, since the fall. Facebook, you'd be surprised. It depends on what the content is, but the thing with Facebook is that is a screenshot of my feed from one day, and we don't see the whole. Well, actually, no, we do see the whole screen. I'll get to those in a second. Yes, so Reels are new. Reels are relatively new since last August or so. Reels are essentially they're the copy of TikTok that Instagram put on their platform. And now the most recent news with that is what people have been doing is they've been taking TikToks and putting them in Reels, just saving them from TikTok, uploading them into Reels. And Instagram just realized now that that's not such the best idea to allow that. So they're going to start actively watching for somewhat blurrier videos and videos with any watermarks on them, which these are all things that the TikTok videos tend to look like when they get shared to Reels. So Reels, that's another case of the platform really pushing something, because Instagram is still really pushing Reels into people's feeds, for better or worse. I've heard both sides. I've heard people, they love Reels, they love being able to use Reels with the point of maybe not having to go on TikTok and use TikTok, and reaching their Instagram audience with Reels. But then I've heard a lot of people also complaining about just how much more cluttered Instagram seems to be now, and how many more Reels are popping up into their feeds as well, which are maybe not always wanted for a lot of people. So it's just it's still developing. All this stuff happens so fast. It's all been happening so fast over the last few years that we're just at a different pace now than we used to be. We used to give things time to develop, and now if something doesn't work in like a month, it's deemed a failure. When Instagram took several years to get to a successful, quote unquote, successful spot, where now it's like, we see Snapchat something doesn't get to that point in a year or two, and it's like, oh, it's done, you know. It's interesting. So we're just in a different time. So here's the harsh reality that I want to share with everybody, make sure we're all aware of here. That social media platforms were not built for sales. They were not initially built for sales. They were, you know, the Facebooks of the world, Twitter, Instagram, they were initially built for social networking. They were not built for business building. They were not built for sales. So how do we cope with that? You know, they've come a long way for sure, led by Facebook, for better or worse, data issues and all that sort of a thing. But just the thing to always keep in mind is that these platforms, everything that they're doing is it's for their gain. It's for their gain. I love social media. I have a passion for it. It's what I do for a living, and I do it outside of work even. But just never forget that it is now a business, and things that they do, the moves that they make, are in the best interest of always of themselves, with the user in mind, you could say. But to that end, for them to succeed, they want you as the user to have success and to engage and spend time. This is the big one: spend time on the platform, because that's what generates the ad dollars over time, over the years. Now, having said that, this is a good graph that shows why consumers follow brands on social media. And it's kind of a reverse of that. You know, it's like, oh, well, people, based on this survey, follow these brands because they do want to learn about company news and new products or services, sales and discounts, and even, you know, to be entertained is up there with sales and discounts. This is, why do they follow them? It's not what made them follow the brands. So I would flip this and say, to a certain extent, I would flip and say, to get people to follow your company, to pay attention to what you're doing, it's not about the products and services, because you haven't built that loyalty yet. You haven't built that connection yet. So once you have them, yes, that, you know, like, they're interested. They followed you for a reason. You gave them a good reason. You hit something with them that made them want to follow you. So yes, now they do want to hear what's going on with your company, what's going on with the products, new products. Educate me on all of this. So for businesses, it's a little funny, because you have to play both sides of the fence. One is in the pregame, one is in the postgame. Once you got them. This is kind of an accepted graph showing marketing mix. The overall marketing mix it looks like a lot, right? It is, but it's the marketing mix typically for what a business should be looking at. I'm not going to go through and read all these, but you can see what's going on, and there's a reason for each thing. You know, promotion has a bunch of different things underneath it. And this is what is successful to have for a full marketing mix, right? So now, excuse my graphic design abilities. So this is the one that I created for social media marketing. It's a little more condensed, a little bit more minimalistic, because it really does boil down to these elements. The whole purpose of what you're trying to do is build your audience, and then also, you know, convert at some level. When I say conversions, that doesn't always mean revenue. That does not always mean money. Conversions as a goal can be anything, almost anything that you want it to be. So if you're hosting an event, a conversion can be a registration. A conversion can be a click to this website. A conversion can be someone that attended. Maybe the conversion doesn't count until the person attended even. It could be all three. It just matters what you're counting for your goals. And we'll get into the SMART goals in a minute. Having Google Analytics set up on your website, that is an enormous part of what you need to do. And yes, that's in the social media marketing mix. I know it doesn't always, it's digital, doesn't always feel like it falls in the same conversation, but it definitely should, because what you want to do is be able to track, okay, here's the traffic coming from social media to my website. Google Analytics tells you this at a very basic level, without really needing to know too much in-depth knowledge about how to do Google Analytics. If you know where to click on the sidebar, it's there, and it does it automatically. There's complex ways to do it that'll give you much more information, but there's a very foundational level that you can do involving that. Content marketing is obvious. You need good content. Platform engagement, paid ads. These, I think, are the big four elements of driving conversions, building your audience when it comes to social media. Yes, rest in peace, Google Plus, Sophia. that one didn't quite make it, and it did finally end. That is why it's definitely not any of these charts or graphs. When it comes to your business, these are the keys, right? This is in general for business, but it also applies to marketing overall. And so setting goals, creating a plan, following a strategy, all these things matter, and they all drive what you're going to do on social media. Believe it or not, it's not just, I'm sure you guys know, you're not going to succeed just by throwing up a post one day every day, and hoping for the best. It's just not going to work. So where you start with that is what's called a SWOT analysis, SWOT. And again, this is part of a general business practice, really, where you would do this for your company. You figure out what are your strengths as a company. Where do your weaknesses lie? Your areas for improvement. What are the opportunities that lay out there? There's probably a good amount that just because maybe you haven't sat down to think about it and made a list, you don't realize, or maybe talk to other people, and there's other ideas out there. And then threats, so where you're at risk. So for me, as a person, I kind of did a small SWOT on myself, and like for me, a threat is time, just time, having enough time management. That is a threat in my world, because it's something it threatens me for my success. So how do I deal with that? Well, that's what I have to figure out. Here's a big one. And I would say, I know we're recording this, but if you want to like screenshot something, this is a good one. There's a lot, this is all over everywhere, Google and every business class, I think, pretty much also. But if you want to, have it right now, SMART goals are big. SMART, it's an acronym: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound. Again, I won't read all this. You guys you can grab it. But these are key. These are key in building your business, but also for social media marketing as a whole, social media marketing planning. You have to have goals. You have to know why you're trying to do this stuff too. What is it? Why do you have this goal? How are you going to reach it? How are you going to measure it? That's a big one that people forget. What are the analytics behind this? There's these things called KPIs, key performance indicators. And that's how you measure things in social media for the most part. I mean, in other things too, but for social media, we absolutely use KPIs. And knowing what you want to measure, measuring likes on a post, that could actually go either way. A lot of people think that's a vanity metric. Well, if you're tying that into something else that's bigger, that's more successful, where a like on an Instagram post equals this down the road, well, then the like is a valuable metric. Impressions may be the same type of a thing. Reach, the number of unique users that you are reaching with a post. All of that can be important. And it does take a little bit of time and research to go through and figure out, okay, well, this post did this metrics, this amount of metrics. As a result, like we had this success. This one did this and we had this success. Start with a baseline, establish the baseline, and then go from there. The example I gave here was about, for it's more of a short-term goal, 180 days, right? So 6 months, rather than years down the line. We want to drive 1,000 users to follow our Instagram over the next 180 days, because we know that our followers on Instagram spend the most money with us out of all of our social media followers. We've tracked that to the business. We average right now about 3 new followers a day. If we get to 5 a day, that's 14 new followers a week, whatever it is per month, per quarter, and then that translates potentially into revenue, and that's what you're trying to track. That's what you're trying to keep track of. I'll go to a question real quick. For SWOT in the context of social media, would you SWOT your social media competency or your strategy potential? It's more strategic. It's more strategic. So you're SWOTting your with opportunity. What is out there in terms of potentially that you're losing out on right now. Obviously, that's what opportunity is, right? But it could even be down to the individual channels. You could do it as all the channels that you are operating. You could do it per channel. But I think it's just important to just start somewhere and utilize that tactic. It doesn't have to be this super big in-depth thing either. There can be 1 or 2 things in each box, just so you start somewhere, you have an idea. And then it's going to develop, because you're going to get more familiar with it. You're going to do things as a result also. This all leads into the sales funnel, which is something you may have heard here and there from time to time. Can it work for social media? It absolutely does work for social media 1,000,000 times over up the board. And this is where I first heard of the sales funnel. I don't know about the rest of you. Glenn Ross I love that movie. I think it started as a play. I never saw the play, but absolutely saw this movie. And Alec Baldwin here, I think he won the Oscar for, does anybody know? Nod your heads. Did he win the Oscar for his supporting actor for this? Or I know he's nominated. So either way, he's nominated and or won for it's like a 5-minute appearance in the whole movie, right? He does this whole speech. If you've ever seen it, if you have not, even go on YouTube and look it up and just watch his section. He goes through this piece of the sales funnel, AIDA, attention, interest, decision, and action. The other more famous piece is behind him there. It's ABC, always be closing. I don't know that I don't really agree with that for social, that you should always be closing. I think that happens naturally and organically if you're doing it right. But it's not this hardcore sales thing is the point. Even to this point, the funnel, and let's dive in a little bit more. This funnel, there's elements to this where for social media, it's generally thought of as top of funnel awareness. So at the top where those arrows are going in, this upside down pyramid, social media is you're putting it out there, and you're seeing what's coming back, what you're gathering at the top of the funnel. In reality, each channel is different. In reality, I mean, think about it. Facebook, you have to have followers. Unless you're doing paid ads, which is a separate point, you need followers for them to get there. They're not gonna see it. Someone shares it, maybe, but realistically, it's sort of a semi-gated community. Twitter is just out there, right? Twitter is absolutely top of funnel. Instagram is kind of in the middle, right? It's mostly gated. If I'm not following your company, I'm not going to see your updates. I'm not going to even get the awareness piece because I'm not following you. So how do you build that awareness? How do you drive that awareness? The paid side of it paid ads absolutely can help. It also doesn't mean that you have to spend thousands of dollars. Pinterest is good. Yes, Eric, thank you for pointing that out. Pinterest is really good for awareness. Pinterest, the search engine on Pinterest, which I think some of you are familiar with Pinterest here, is like, I can't even describe it. It's one of, if not the smartest search engines that exists. The way that it will tailor the whole thing down as you go, how smart it is, how intuitive it is insane. And just the more you use Pinterest, the more it gets in tune with you, right? Even more so than others, even more so than others. So very top of funnel there. Google, not social media, but obviously very top of funnel. That's part of where some of this comes into play. So something like LinkedIn, having a LinkedIn page, which plays heavily into, especially on a personal side, having a LinkedIn profile is heavy into SEO. It plays heavily into your SEO. When someone searches for your name, let's say, or for your company's name, your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn page is going to come up relatively high depending on what other things are out there about your business. Wikipedia is a big one, right? That's not social, but Wikipedia is huge if you have a Wikipedia page. That's why it's such a big deal for someone to have a Wikipedia page. And other results. News, if you're in the news, that's obviously makes a difference. But top of funnel is this awareness piece. Interest, and desire are sort of similar, because now once they follow you, if they're paying attention to what you're posting, that interest exists, right? They wouldn't have followed you otherwise. The idea of WIFM, WIIFM, what's in it for me? That's as a user, that's what I'm going with the whole time. It's like, why am I going to follow you? Why am I going to give you any attention whatsoever when there's a million other things like we saw earlier around that I can pay attention to? Why am I going to pay attention to what you're doing over this Netflix movie that I'm watching? That's what you're competing with. You're competing with everything. You're not just competing with other businesses. You're competing with every other thing that's taking people's attention away. And then at the bottom, in terms of action, this is where, it says it there about the conversions. So again, conversions does not necessarily have to mean a purchase or a sale. Someone following your page can be a conversion and should be a conversion, measured at a certain level. There's a number of things that are conversions and that qualify there, right? So keeping track of all of this is highly important for your business and for social media purposes, because the more you're doing this, the more you're going to know if you should keep doing it. You're not going to, it's not going to be the hamster wheel. You're not going to just keep treading water and, you just post on Facebook because you've been doing it for 3 years every day or a couple times a week. Should you even be doing it? Is it a total waste of time on that off chance that something may get, 50 shares or whatever's a big number for you? Is it worth that amount of time, or is your time better spent in other places? That's what you have to consider. Ramona, good question about the tools that are good for tracking campaign success. We're gonna get to those. I have a whole page of tools that we'll get to. So good question. You're right on track. Planning, having a plan. We touched on this a little bit earlier. These are the things to consider with content. Once you have the content, right? How do you divvy it up? When should you post it? When should you post? This is all a big trial by fire. It's testing. It's measuring what those tests give you. In terms of best times to post, if you go on Google, let's say, and you do a search for best time to post Facebook 2015, right, and do that search and get the search result. You do the same thing except change the year to 2018, then change the year to 2020. you're going to get some interesting results, because there's not necessarily, because of the algorithm being in place with these channels, there's not like a time where you can say, I'm going to post it now and this is golden. This is when I should be posting all the time. Having said that, what I've found is on pages, on business pages, if you're doing stuff earlier in the morning, especially out here being on the west coast, in the mountain and Pacific time zones. I mean, we're in the mountain time zone. I'm not going to get into the time zone thing. We all know what's up with Arizona. Posting earlier in the morning, say on Facebook, right, seems to work better, seems to get better results. LinkedIn, posting Monday through Thursday specifically and earlier in the morning, but specifically on those weekdays, tends to do better than a weekend or even Friday. Twitter, the last data that came out about how long a tweet lasts was something between 15 and 18 minutes. Again, the algorithms all play a part in this. Instagram, similar thing, although we know with stories that those sit up there for 24 hours, but because so many people do stories now on Instagram, if someone's following a lot of people, everybody's doing stories, well, it's good to be in that mix, but you're going to get pushed out probably. And so now you're counting on those people that are looking at all their stories to cycle through. Time-wise though, Instagram, again, how many times do you now see a post where it says, posted 3 days ago? Looking for head nods. Anybody see that? Because that's what it is. Facebook, same thing, right? Multiple days, even a week prior, you're still getting posts because the algorithm is serving it up to you, because it's trying to serve up to you what you want to see, what it thinks you want to see. So it's not necessarily the day and time. Twitter, I'll go back to Twitter real quick, because Twitter absolutely matters if you're working on some sort of a trend or something, right? You want to take advantage of that. Using hashtags helps with that trend. Resources to consider. This is more so for what you want to consider as you go. As a solopreneur, as a small business, realistically, who knows what they're doing? Who has the time? How much time can even be dedicated to it? Can we pay for any tools? Can we pay for any ads? All of that needs to be considered when coming up with the plan. Strategy and planning. Content calendars go a long way. They go a long way. They help you plan. I use Google Sheets. It's pretty straightforward. That's an example blank one. You can kind of create whatever works for you. And then it comes back to the KPIs. What are those key performance indicators that are now driving how you're posting, when you're posting? For tools, and we're coming up on the end here for me. I know I'm a little bit over. Sorry about that. For tools, here's a bunch. There's a ton, right? I put some here. It is not limited to this. For scheduling, these are the big ones: Hootsuite, Buffer, Agorapulse, Later, the ones you've probably heard of. Personally, I go with Hootsuite. We use professionally for the university. With Later, I like to use Later for Instagram specifically. Agorapulse I use on a personal level because I just like how they do things, the reporting and everything. Again, with the reporting, the native insights from the platforms give you a lot of information. Having said that, GA, Google Analytics, is going to give you even more. And then some of these tools later gives you really great Instagram data. Follower Wonk is one from Twitter, or for Twitter, that is actually free to a point. It'll give you a certain amount of information for free, and on other users, on your own accounts, which is big. And then if you want to go, really in depth, like Rival IQ can give you a lot of information. It's a little bit on the more expensive side though. Some other tools definitely have, if you're even if you're an online business, you may want to consider having Google My Business set up. Some of these others for Linktree and link in bio, so that you have a bunch of links in one spot. You've probably seen those. Some of the other tools like Instagram has the ability to order food now through a sticker on an Instagram story. They just came out with that during the quarantine. Shopify, of course, if you're doing e-commerce, Shopify is a pretty big go-to. Pinterest now has these shops that you can set up for your page and your business. And then on the content side, having fun more so and creating interactive content with Giphy. You can create GIFs from even your own videos. Canva has been around forever, and they just seem to keep adding and adding more things in there. If you're not graphically designed, if you're graphic design impaired, Canva is a great tool. It'll help you. It'll help you in a big way. And then last but not least, I changed this slide up because I had something else here. Then I saw this tweet today, and this really sums up. This is from today. Christina she works at HubSpot, which is another really good platform for marketing, for social media included in there. But what she said here sums it all up, because it's not about selling with social. It's really not. You can't have that mindset when you go into it. It's building community. It's planting these seeds. Every little thing you do, every little interaction you have, even as a person, even maybe not as a business, because someone's going to your profile and seeing that you own this business. When you're online, you're always acting as your brand. You're asking them to participate, interact, foster an environment where others want to join and belong. And that's the case for businesses as well. It's not just people and groups and communities. It's your business. Your business has a community based around it if you're doing the right thing. Thank you. Sorry about the interruptions with the internet.
No worries. Thank you very much, Vincent. I'm glad that we still have plenty of time to speak with Kathy. So I would encourage you guys to feel free to ask Kathy questions about her journey as well. And I'll be directing questions to Vincent as well. So I'd like to just start this roundtable off by asking Kathy to please introduce herself and to tell us a little bit about her business and how she has been using social media.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I loved Vincent's presentation. It's so helpful. I'm Kathy cano-murillo.
Thanks for coming.
And yes, I'm glad to be here. And my brand is Crafty Chica. This year, I'm celebrating 20 years of Crafty Chica, and it has been an amazing journey. I launched it as a blog. And at the time I was working at the Arizona Republic as a features reporter, and I just got so excited about writing stories and featuring people that I started my blog after the kids went to bed. And I was a mom blogger before it was a thing. I blogged about being a band wife, being an artist, being a writer, working a full-time job, and having 2 kids. And I started sharing tutorials about how to make Latino-centric home decor, jewelry, those types of things. And I just have always loved having an online platform to share things out. And let me tell you, back then, we had message boards, we had Yahoo groups, and everything was through the message boards. And we built a community off of that. And I realized the power of it because it helped my sales of my handmade art. It got me a lot of press interviews. So when the next one came out, which was MySpace, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And at that time at the newspaper, I had my MySpace page for Crafty Chica, and I worked for the entertainment guide. And I remember telling them, like, we need to have our entertainment guide. They need a MySpace page, and people just laughed at it. And I had a craft column that came out in the paper on Saturdays, and it ran all over the country. It was syndicated, but in our paper, it ran in black and white in the inside pages. And I asked my editor, I said, what can I do to show that this deserves to be in colors, that readers want to see this? And she said, I don't have any hard data. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And I said, if I bring hard data, can we do something? And she said, I guess. So I went and I looked up the traffic for the movie reviews, which was the #1 traffic source to the site. And I went on my MySpace page and I asked all of my followers if they would please click on my link to my craft story. And I ended up getting more page views on my craft column than the movie reviews. And that was my hard data. And I remember the other reporters were like, is that legal? Like, that seems kind of shady. Like, what are you doing? You're rigging the system. And I said, no. I'm using this other online community source, sharing the teaser of the project, like a link, sharing the link. And when in my column ran in color on the front page of features. And then I was like, oh my God, I am in this. It wasn't even called social media. And then Facebook came along and YouTube, and I was like, serve it up. I am here for it, because I realized the power of it. And I used it to reach out to reporters to get press coverage for my business. I was featured in the Sunday New York Times for Crafty Chica, in Forbes, on CNN, on all these. I just thought big. And I ended up with my own product line for Michael's stores, a bunch of licensing deals. I ended up leaving the newspaper in 2007 to do Crafty Chica full time. And I could not have done it without social media. And once I realized the power, it's free. It's just, you have to, it costs time, but you have to strategize. Now I have a brand manager, and she helps me a lot with it. But every time I see a new platform, I'm like, okay, what kind of a party is this? Who is at this party? What do I have to contribute to this that will help people, that will inspire people? I just always think, with what in my arsenal of creativity, what can I serve on each specific platform to inspire people? And that's what I have been doing for this 20 years. And that's why I believe my brand is thriving, because I've just always had a growth mindset. And I look like, okay, how do I fit in here? And should I do this? And it's always a challenge. Like when TikTok, for a couple of years, I had friends telling me, you need to be on TikTok. And I was like, no way. Oh my God, I am too old. I'm not doing dancing. I'm not doing lip singing. And then when the quarantine happened, I just started, I went on TikTok, and I just loved the community. I loved the creativity. I saw, kids with their grandparents and their parents creating content together, because we were all forced together in our houses, and it was a way to still connect with people. And I thought, this is such a special platform that I'm not going to put any content on here. I'm just going to consume. I'm just going to watch. I'm just going to enjoy it. Well, earlier in the fall, TikTok contacted me, and they hired me for a 2-month campaign for their Learn on TikTok campaign. And yes, social listening. And I had to do 40 videos in 8 weeks. And it pushed me to up my game, to do new content. And out of 20 years, I finally had my first piece of million view content, and it was on TikTok. So it just goes to show that there are no limits. You have to go in and check it out and see what you can contribute to it. And if you feel overwhelmed, maybe pick one of them over the other. For me, each one has a specific purpose. Like Pinterest drives traffic to my website, and I have Mediavine ads. That is a paycheck of passive income on the first of every month. And I could not do that without the help of Pinterest. So I'm very strategic with that. You know, YouTube is its own audience. Twitter, all of them, it's like a different side of my personality is on each one. And I love it. I've just come to embrace it.
That is a fantastic journey, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you.
You have an incredibly infectious energy, and
Oh,
it's amazing to have seen, you know, how you've been able to find success in so many locations. But I'm wondering how you go about figuring out if something is working or not working.
well, you know, I do have someone who helps me. Like I have a brand manager. She helps run my Facebook page. We figured out the kind of content that people like for that. I also have a Crafty Chica group within Facebook, which is a lot of Latina crafters and makers. So that's kind of like my focus group where I can see what they respond to, what they're interested in. As far as platforms, I mean, like LinkedIn, I always was like, I don't know if I really fit in on there. Like, it's just very businessy. I'm very creative, but I thought, you know what? I'm still going to keep this up and keep it going. Well, I got a greeting card line, a licensed greeting card line, because this Designer Greetings, which is the third largest greeting card company, they went on LinkedIn and they were looking for contacts who knew of Latina artists. And in my mind, I'm like, well, they could just go on Instagram, but they didn't. They went on LinkedIn. And there happened to be one of my former book editors from Random House. She got his message and she connected him to me through LinkedIn. So don't ever count anything out. Everything, there's always opportunities. And I'm so glad that happened because I had always wanted to do a greeting card line, but I was focusing so much on Instagram where I thought that's where they would be looking for me. But the truth is Instagram can be overwhelming to sift through. So what happened on LinkedIn was these were contacts that went to their trusted sources to find people. It was like a shortcut for them. So they didn't have to go through and weed through everything, which I thought was really interesting. I never would have thought of it that way. I was trying the other way. So it's really just trial and error and feeling things out. Right now, I feel like YouTube has cooled down a lot. So I have not put as much energy into YouTube as I had been. TikTok is where it's at. Instagram and Facebook, those are two entirely different audiences, but they're both working and they're both driving sales and page views and just responses and engagement.
You know, I'm hearing some awesome nuggets in there for people. So one of your key pieces of advice, you know, choose a couple platforms to start off with if you're not already on social media. If you're finding success with that and you are able to set some goals for yourself and to carve out time specifically to focus on social media, maybe start branching out to some other platforms. And to really use trial and error to help you figure out what is going to work.
The beauty of it is we have insights. So, you know what one of my key things, I look at all my content and yes, people will give it likes or comment, but to me, the gold is people who have saved the image. When I see that someone went out of their way to save an image and there's a high number of saves on there, I'm like, okay, especially designing or coming up with quotes or words or sayings or themes. I'm like, we have the data right there in front of us. Like, look at your insights, try something. It doesn't work or not as good, try something else. Just keep tweaking it and keep following the insights to see what people respond to. And then when you find it, do more stuff like that, do variations of it.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, a lot of people get caught up in what we call vanity metrics, just like how many people looked at something. But depending on your goal, there's going to be different metrics. And so a lot of thought can go into that as well. figuring out what performance or what engagement with a post drives the right progress towards your goal. And I would love for Vincent to chime in here and shed a little of his insight on that.
I was actually, I'm glad, because this is like I have something specifically to add. Everything else was gold. Kathy, as always. I was just gonna mention that, like, so Kathy, your stuff is super, super highly creative, colorful. People, it connects with someone right off the, like, if I see a picture of your stuff, my wife is a Latina, so I send her stuff all the time, right? She follows you. I mean, you know that. But I'll like send her stuff, even though I know she probably saw it. I'm like, I'll still send it to her, and just to make sure, and like make that connection. So I think it's important for some of the other businesses, like even some of the people that are in here, if you have a business that is not like that, if you have a business that is not this like super fun, creative, great visuals, all that, like, what do you do? And I was just going to offer this, like, one thing that you can do is basically follow these tenets of providing education, being useful, and entertaining to a point. I mean, you don't have to make everything a comedy sketch, but some sort of brand, like human element to it, your personality to it is okay. It's totally okay to add that in, and make that part of your regular strategy, and let yourself shine through the business, because people do connect with that. So if you're another type of a business, you could be useful and educational by, is there some small let's say some set of instructions that goes along in your business that you give to people, right? You could make a graphic or a video or something, anything like that you drop, and then you see how people react.
And you know, one thing I learned from the TikTok training was to really pay attention to the me content versus serving you content. And the more that you share tips, ideas, insight, your story, things you've learned, you're serving people, you're giving them aspirational type of content. They're going to want to come back because they know you're always giving tips or advice and sharing that kind of thing. And a lot of times we get into posting like me content where it's you know, all about your own life story, which is okay too if you find a way. Like, when I do content like that, I always say, what do you think of this? You know, how do you handle when you are run out of ideas? And that triggers some comments for people to have a conversation. So, you know, really just be aware of coming from a place of, you know, serving people and offering something that, you know, a good takeaway for them. And I believe it's for any kind of industry or business. You can be engaging. It doesn't mean you have to be on camera. You can just really push yourself. Like, don't do it lazily, because you're not going to get good results. Don't just do it just to throw something up there. I mean, if you're going to do it, follow through, show up, sit down and say, okay, everyone is doing this kind of theme and it's working. How could I put my own twist on it? And even looking at the trends on TikTok of, you know, everyone puts their own twist on the trend videos. So how can you do that with your content? And it really does make a difference. It'll help you stand out from everybody else.
Great. And I want to make sure we leave time for everybody here to ask you questions or ask Vincent questions. So I'd like to open it up to everyone. So maybe I can pose this question to everyone. How do you feel like you can change the way you're using social media in your business now that you've heard from Vincent and heard from Kathy? And I can already imagine how Ruben can use some of these instructionals for his business. So I'd love to hear from you guys.
I did have one thing. Hello, Kathy. I'm actually one of your followers on Instagram.
Oh,
So
awesome.
it's
Hi,
nice to
nice
meet
to
you. Hello.
meet you.
So I also did the TikTok thing, and I think I downloaded it and deleted it like 3 times until I started posting just the product, and I didn't really talk about myself or the business. And it wasn't until I got in front of the camera and I did just a quick pitch, but I wasn't really
Yeah.
selling. I was just saying, this is my name, this is my company, and this is what I do. And I had this little
Yes.
bridge with my thing is like personalized coffee grams, and I told them that they can put their picture on it, so that caught their attention in the first couple seconds. And then I had this bridge. What's interesting about it is, and they kept watching the video, and I had this little coffee filter, and that's what got them watching about 38 seconds of the video, and the sales were just, it was insane. And so I think it went from 20 followers to like, I don't know, about 5,000 overnight the first time. I took that exact same video because I see that on people on TikTok, they kind of repost them. Since I already had that following, I reposted it the next Friday night, and I woke up to 25,000 likes and ended the day with 100, I think 125,000. And the
Oh
sales
my
just,
God.
the traffic was insane, and I have never experienced
Wow.
anything like that. And it was until like you were saying, I was focusing so much on my time, being a barista in Korea and the product, and I wasn't really making the customer the hero. What was like what Vincent said about what's in it for them type of thing. When I kind of
Right.
changed that little
Yes.
thing, that's what. And the video took me 5 minutes, but now that I'm thinking about it, it was all this experience with like retail devils and venture devils that got my
Yes.
pitch down. Because before this program, me just doing a video would have not, it wouldn't have been like that at all. So it was that, practicing doing the pitches at ASU and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I condensed it to a minute video, and that was just, and so now like what I'll do is just real quick, for example, I'll post a picture on Instagram of a nice, latte art. But on TikTok, I'll post that when I was moving the camera, my tripod hit the milk pitcher and spilled the milk everywhere. So
Yes.
yeah, so TikTok, they'll see like the real like behind the scenes
Yes,
thing.
I just posted one of those too, a
Yeah.
fail, and it got
Yes,
tons
yes.
of views, but I'm not posting it on Instagram.
Exactly.
I'm just keeping it on TikTok. And
Yes.
one thing they told us at TikTok was to make sure you have a good series of 15-second videos. It
Okay.
increases the watch time because it's easier. You're more likely to have people watch 15 seconds, which counts as watching a whole length of your video, as opposed to a minute. So therefore,
okay.
it gets shown to more people. So they said the sweet spot was actually 11 to 12 seconds. So just every so often work in a couple of those 15-second ones, and
Okay.
that helps boost. And also they said doing a live, right? Like
Oh,
I
yes.
can't remember if it's you post it and then do a live, or you do a live and then you post it, but that also helps boost as well. And I think it's interesting. I just found out that Instagram, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but starting March 1st, they're launching what they call live rooms, where up to 4 people can do a live on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
And so it feels like everyone's getting in on this game of adding more video, more features, and it looks like maybe they're trying to compete with Zoom or Clubhouse. I don't know, but I think it's cool that I feel like competition breeds innovation.
Yes.
And it just pushes us to come up with new ideas, and the end viewer is the winner because they get to see awesome, inspiring tutorials and
Yes.
videos and comedy and everything.
One thing I did want to say
Yeah.
was real quick, my previous videos didn't make really like any sales. When that one went viral, all of my other videos, the views went up because
Yes.
people were going through it, and the products I had featured before that started selling when the other products sold out. So like if you guys get low views on stuff, you keep those videos up because it could generate
Yes,
sales later on.
definitely. Well,
Well, so for
congratulations.
both of
What a
you,
great
And it was very nice
story.
meeting you.
I
yeah,
love
congratulations.
that.
Thank you.
For both of you, you saw sales. You did see sales as a result of the success on these videos.
Yes, you have to be prepared
Thanks.
to serve that way too.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
That got
Oh, that's a
stressful.
you have to
good
be
point.
That got
ready.
stressful, yeah.
You have to really plan it out, because I do
Yes.
handmade stuff, and I'll
Yes.
put, I put new mugs in my store, and then 5 minutes I'm like, oh my God, they're gone already. And then people are like, can I have more
Oh,
mugs? I'm like, I don't have time to
what a
make more
horrible
mugs.
problem to have.
But if you
That's a
play
great
your
problem.
cards right, it can be, it can bring in good sales.
And I love the message of not giving up, right? Because as long as you keep trying new things, analyzing your insights from
Yes.
the platform, you're going to start picking up nuggets of information about what is starting to click.
Mhm.
And then you can also look around, see, like you're saying, what other people are
Yes.
doing and try to do your own variation on that. And man, if you get traction, everything else you've been working
Yes.
on will just light up.
It's like a hot air balloon. Like it just picks it up. It helps it all float. All of it come together. Yeah.
I want to add one last thing about, not to harp on TikTok, but one last thing just to the point of what Kathy just said about how kind of anything can really make it, if you're doing it right, if you have a strategy and planning and you know where your audience is and all that. There's an account on there. Like when I first started on TikTok, it came into my feed because I think it might be Arizona based. But there's an account on there. It's rural land for sale, something along those lines. It's literally land. It's the guy showing on Google Maps, like geofenced land. He's like, oh, okay, this lot is up in Prescott, blah blah blah, cost this much. I mean, that is the video.
Yep.
And these videos have thousands and tens of thousands of views. And now to a point, like the views, again, coming back to the vanity metrics, like what do they actually mean? That guy keeps doing them, so it leads me to believe that it's worth his time and he's making money and selling them. Like that's why you would keep doing this on these platforms, is it's working for you to some extent with your business, I would imagine.
Yeah. And it sometimes the pay isn't necessarily like currency. Sometimes the pay comes in other ways as well, because doing all these TikTok videos, I mean, after the campaign ended, I don't get paid to do them. However, for my campaigns that I do for brands, I can now incorporate that as a service to offer them. And it's for an extra fee. Kathy will do a TikTok video to go with it. So it like ups the value of, my menu of services that I have. And because I love creating content and doing stuff, it's fun for me to do it too.
Absolutely. And to follow up, the one last thing I wanted to ask you guys is how you have used the social media to actually connect your customers to the point where they can take action and make a sale. Did you, for instance, include a link to your website, or something else? How are you funneling?
Oh my gosh, I use it
customers
every
to that
which
action?
way. So I drive people every day on stories. I do a post from my website for them to check out, a craft tutorial. I do art retreats, virtual classes. I've authored 10 books, so I'll drive them to, when I have a new book out, to buy the book. If I'm having a flash sale or any kind of event, I use the Linktree app, which I know people are saying you can make your own on Canva. So I'm looking into doing that, but it's great because you can switch those links out. It's super easy. But I like to take it offline and build community. And that's why I started doing retreats, because I just, we all connect online and we're in the comments. And I thought, well, how awesome would it be to meet in person? So I started doing retreats every year so everyone could come together, and then they become really good friends, and they're all friends online together. So yeah, you can use it for so many different things.
That makes sense. I can chime in. Again, I would echo what Kathy's saying about every which way. definitely driving people to, landing pages and websites and all of that, with calls to action. The only caveat I'll put on there is that and Kathy, tell me what you think about this, because you and I don't think we've ever like talked about this specifically. I think we're at a point, and do you think we're at a point, people are going on a platform, they're going on TikTok, they're not necessarily going to click on something to go to, like, they're there to be on TikTok. They're spending time, they want to be watching
Yes.
TikToks for like an hour, right? They're
Yeah.
on Instagram because they want to sit on Instagram for an hour and watch stories or main feed, different things. So I'm leaning more towards the whole, not to avoid websites or anything, but bringing it to where they are. So for instance, one of the things that we do is we have articles like, for ASU, we have ASU News pumps out content, a million stories a day, right? And for one of the accounts that we post on Facebook, what we do is we take the article and actually put the article in the Facebook post at, like, the words, the actual article, and not the link, because we all think that Facebook doesn't like these links. And so as a result, we're just putting the story there with a picture, and it's like it's a post that, I'm making myself of. I took a picture and wrote a caption to it. There's no link going out somewhere. So there's that type of an aspect too, where it's, if I'm on this platform, say Facebook, I don't want to leave Facebook necessarily. And then as the publisher, I want to reach this audience right in that moment when they're most likely to, maybe we're going to catch their eye and they're going to read this. And if our goal is like building awareness, driving awareness, and so we are looking at impressions and reach, maybe not likes, but shares, right? Those are the KPIs. Then is that doing better than putting a link and letting it auto populate with this other stuff, this metadata that shows up?
I think it's a balance, because if they take the time to click off to check out something I'm doing, I want to make sure it's awesome, that it's worth, that they don't regret it. And I have started, like, it used to be you put up a YouTube video and share that link everywhere, drive everything to YouTube. I do not do that anymore. I have it directly uploaded to Facebook. I edit it down for Instagram. I edit another one for TikTok for that very reason that you said, because I want to make it easy for them. And that's why I love Reels, on Instagram now, because it's such a hook to get people over to my main page and give me a follow. Because if I can put something exciting there from a video that I made earlier, where you don't have to click on it, you can just watch this 15-second video, and then they know to go to my page to see more. So I just started editing down my videos to do that, to keep people there. And then, there are people that want to click off though and see, like, oh, I want to buy this book, or I want to see the full 10-minute video how to do this project. So I make sure that end looks good. But yeah, I think you're right. We have to, without the readers or followers, we wouldn't be doing any of this. So we have to make it easy for them. And I always count the number of clicks, like the least amount of clicks to get them where I want them to go. Too many clicks, and it's like, you lose them, And sometimes it's not even about, like you said, clicking. Like, today is Edward James Olmos's birthday, and I have this post. I did a blog post about him, and everyone is commenting over on Facebook, boomer crowd, Edward James Olmos, and they're just celebrating him, and they're like, thank you, Crafty Chica, for reminding me about how much we love Edward James Olmos. So it's like marking me as someone who brought people together of something they maybe wouldn't have known about. And some of them aren't even clicking over to the article, but I'm fine with that. I'm happy that they're going to say, I saw on the Crafty Chica page, it's Edward James Olmos. So there's just so many different ways to look at it. We have to stop thinking that it's only likes or only click links. Like, there's so much more that goes into it.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's different ways that you can use social media depending on perhaps what stage of the funnel you're working on.
Yes.
So you can have those general awareness things that, things that people can just look at and maybe learn that you exist. And then you have those things that really build interest, and maybe those are those posts, even if they don't directly link anywhere, they're creating that interest in what you're doing. So maybe they're going to keep engaging with more and more and more content on that platform that you've made, until eventually they are interested enough to maybe click your profile and find
sign
your
up for a
website.
newsletter. Yes.
And sign up for a
I
newsletter.
forgot to mention one of the most important things, and I'm sure Vince will agree with this, is no matter what piece of content you put up, set intention for it. What is the end goal? Why are you posting this? What do you want people to do? Are you trying to get site traffic? Are you trying to sell something? Are you trying to look good to an editor? Or, you have to know that, and let that, help direct you. What do you want people to do with it? And a lot of times people don't think of that. They just are like posting stuff. And I think a lot of, okay, I had to do one Monday for a client. And I'm like, I'm going to do an illustration about Monday, because it's everyone's, we're here, Motivation Monday. And I did this little graphic themed around Monday, and people loved it. And it was something that was just so perfect. So really, think about the intention and what's going on. How can you make it more specific to you?
Exactly. Did anybody else have any other questions?
Yeah, like maybe where are they stuck? Is anyone stuck?
Is anybody stuck? We heard a little bit from Ramona in the beginning about working on something in the healthcare sector. And as we were saying, that's not the easiest, I guess, to have a runaway social media campaign with.
But you can on TikTok. Oh my God, the healthcare professionals are amazing. Everything from, skin people to dental to just stretching. They have whole accounts that are just on whatever area it is in health that they can do. So everyone can be a rock star. You just got to find that path and be patient and strategize it of what is my secret sauce that I can bring to this. But oh my God, the healthcare stuff is amazing on TikTok.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
That would have been the last place I would have looked, actually.
Oh,
I'd have started there last.
Nurses have been on TikTok
after this, and I'll send you links. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Ambulance
you.
drivers, hospital workers, doctors.
Yes.
I mean, they were some of the first that were on there. A lot of the public sort of community, firemen, policemen, I think they've since kind of waned off. But the initial, there was a huge group of military who've since been kind of banned a little bit from doing it on their government devices and in uniform. I think the police, fire, doctors, all of that, for sure. That's absolutely.
And a real quick testament to that, there's an eye doctor, and she had the eye test challenge. Everyone was doing it, and I found out that my left eye was weaker than this eye. So I went to the eye doctor, and I had to get new glasses. Wow. And it's because of this TikTok video from this eye doctor, this test, to do this test to see if you have eye strain from, being on the computer too much. And I did the test, and I was like, oh my God. And you know what? Thank you, TikTok. So there's room for everybody on there. Life is so interesting and so multifaceted.
It is. The one thing I think that ties in through a lot of this too is it doesn't have to be this, there's a lot of dancing and all this kind of stuff, which is certainly fun, right? It's all fun. You see adults, boomers down to the Gen Z doing it. But what a lot of the success, and even you guys that are in here that have had millions of views on your channels, a lot of it is even just documentation, like showing process. Kathy, I see you. The other day you were making mugs and things and painting them and doing a time-lapse video, and I don't know how, that's part of the overall thing is people just like seeing this stuff your audience likes seeing
Yeah.
this stuff. They like seeing how you do things. You'd be shocked at how much they like and enjoy seeing the
Yes.
process of things happen.
I just got into watching this Australian gemsmith hone these opal pieces of opal, and I was like, I would never have thought, you know.
I know.
Wait,
I
where's Stacy?
know.
Is Stacy still on here?
It's fascinating
Is
to
Stacy listening?
watch something be transformed and to learn about a process I've never known about. And now I've gone on to his page, and it turns out he actually like has a marketplace where you can buy, you know, raw opal nuggets for $5 all the way up to, you know, $50,000 perfectly
Wow.
polished. Like, but yeah, like literally I wanted to learn something new about how something was made. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
he wasn't dancing, he was doing something informative.
It's like we don't need the Discovery Channel anymore. We have TikTok. And
Yeah,
you know
and
what's
they're on
really
there.
smart?
Yeah,
What's
they're
really
on there.
smart about TikTok is they know it because they have this whole campaign that is learn on TikTok. If you're ever doing a tutorial on TikTok, use that hashtag because those are the ones that they push out to more people. So they really have, they want to break away from, you know, oh, it's for kids, it's for dancing. And they realize the power in teaching, and people are going on, learn on TikTok. I think it is so brilliant that they're doing that, where you can go to TikTok to learn about all these things. It's called Learn on TikTok. If
Part of
you're
our work
teaching
is
something-
teaching. Yeah, so that would actually
Yeah.
be perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
There it is.
Is there anybody else who thinks that maybe they're not ready to start creating their strategy if they're stuck on a stage, or maybe a platform they think is off limits? I think we've lost, oh, he's back. All right. Well, I do want to be respectful of everyone's time because we've gone a little bit over, and I'm sure, you know, I'm at least hungry. I'm sure you guys might also be hungry or have family commitments that you need to get back to. I will share out a copy of this video as soon as I figure out exactly how we're going to store and then link it. And also, if you wanted to connect with anybody from this group, please feel free to put your information into the chat. I'll keep the room open a little bit longer so that you can connect via that way. But other than that, thank you so much for joining us. If you would like to connect with Vincent or I and to discuss more deeply, we have wayfinding appointments through Peoria Forward, and we can help you navigate resources and set up strategies specific to you. And our contact information is, of course, on the Peoria Forward website, which is entrepreneurship.asu.edu/Peoria-forward. Or you can reach me at eric.heimbecker@asu.edu. And I'll put that in the chat as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night. This was awesome.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.